As much as I am good at digital art, I'd be the first one to admit that traditional art isn't my strongest suit, mainly because I don't practice it that much. So that got me thinking, what if I replicate one of my digital art in a traditional medium? How well will it turn out? Well, watch the entire video to find out. For this, I'll be using watercolors as my means to color the artwork because that's the one I have an easy access to. I really love these Sakura Koi ones. It's not super pricey yet the colors are good. I'm kinda pondering whether I should use watercolor paper or vellum paper. The thing is, I don't really like that watercolor paper gets super wet and takes forever to dry because I have to finish it immediately if I'm gonna make my upload schedule. Besides, I've done some art using vellum paper, so let's just go with that. The artwork I'll be replicating will be this. Let's get this out of the way. I'm not aiming for 100% accuracy in this drawing. I drew this a few years ago and the way I draw now is different from how I drew back then, and I kinda want to add some decent background apart from these lame mountains I lazily drew. We'll see how it goes. The hardest thing in this is obviously there's no undo button and there are no layers, so if I make a mistake, well, I'll try to fix it with this poster paint, but it's definitely gonna be obvious. I'll be using half a legal size paper for this. Bigger size means bigger surface area to paint and more stress, but I don't want it too small that I won't be able to draw in tiny details. Somehow when I draw in traditional media, I make mistakes in proportion. Probably because the angle of the canvas distorts my view and I would only notice it when I add the details. On digital, I can just select what I need and adjust them, and man, I really miss doing that here. Instead, I would have to erase everything and redraw it again. Because my hands are a bit heavy, it leaves these scratch marks. Hopefully, it wouldn't show on the finish. They're wearing a thick parka, so we have to consider that and make sure the clothing doesn't stick to our skin. I won't really ink this because the black lines would be obnoxious to look at, so I'll just clean the sketch by erasing the lines that shouldn't be there. Let's research some snowy mountain park so I have some clear visualization for the background. I'll only make a quick sketch of the layout for the background because I think it's best to just paint it directly. I actually dug out this old how to draw landscape book I bought. Now, I know it's spring theme, but I can still try to apply the steps and apply winter colors. Look, I need to give myself a better chance of making this look good. One thing I learned in watercolors is that you have to start with light colors first because unlike oil or poster paints, you can't really put lighter colors on top of dark colors because it will just blend together. To avoid different colors from blending accidentally, let's wait for a bit so that it dries out. One part of what I don't like about this is that I have to wait for the paints to dry because patience is not my strong suit and it disrupts my workflow. But it is what it is. What I can also do while I'm waiting for a certain part to dry is focus on an area on the other side of it. That way it's more efficient. I might have screwed over the leaves because the red seems to have bled out, but I'll fix this in a bit later on. In order to do the fine details like the flower patterns on their scarf, I'm gonna cheat a bit and use some colored pencils. However, these are watercolored pencils, so it's technically within the watercolor realm. I might have overdone their blush a bit, so I'm gonna add some white watercolor on top of it to lighten it up. We'll continue doing the pencils later on. I think we should start with the background now. Before I put anything in the background, let me just practice a bit on a separate paper so that I don't screw up because erasing mistakes will be nearly impossible here. This helps me practice the kind of brush strokes I have in order to create the texture I need. For the mountains, I'll be using the dry brush technique, so what I do is dip the brush in the color that I want and wipe it off in the separate paper so that you can achieve this texture effect. I probably could have made the mountains lighter because it's further away, but if I do something about it, I might mess it up, so let's just leave it at that. Let's go back to the watercolor pencils and just draw some lines to separate the subjects and close any gaps that I can't precisely paint with the brush. And I think I'm gonna call it done. That's the best I can do for now. Let's have a side-by-side comparison. Well, my watercolor painting is lighter, especially on the parka. I do admit I have an anxiety towards darker colors when it comes to watercolors because it's hard to erase. Come to think of it, I should have used a different shade of red on the upper lip or just used pencil so I could have done a more precise shade, but it's not really super glaring to the point that I'll be bothered by it. In the end, I think I did alright. It's definitely not the best thing you've seen, but for me, it's quite a feat. If digital medium suddenly disappeared one day, I would still be able to draw. That is because I learned the basic principles of drawing. Regardless of what medium you choose, you need to at least learn the foundations. This video will teach you what you need to know.